Hi guys, welcome to DnD Tales 3. Again there is 4 short stories. Please let me know your favorite one in the comments. From bandit to main antagonist, a story of Knuckle Duster. I was dungeon mastering for a small group of my buds on a campaign. They were using characters from the previous part of this campaign, and they were fairly good at what they did, having killed a vampiric dragon at the end of the previous campaign. Think they can take on the world. Anything I throw at them falls almost instantly. Except for one thing. The party is at a smuggler's dock, creeping around the small warehouse. Paladin gets ballsy and walks in alone, seeing that there is only 2 bandits. He stealths one but screws up on the other. Bandit calls out for help and Paladin attacks. Initiative is rolled and fight begins. Only the Paladin is in this fight. Keep in mind that this is a normal bandit, adjusted for level. Bandit goes first and tries to punch the Paladin in the throat to prevent spellcasting. Nat 20. Paladin cannot speak now, lost 12 points of health, and is slowly bleeding from the throat because of the spiked brass knuckles the bandit has. Paladin rolls to cut off the hands of the bandit. 1. Paladin cuts off other hand. Bandit rolls to cripple Paladin. Succeeds. Paladin cannot move, speak. PC gets pissed off at this bandit. Rolls to pray for health. Succeeds. Gets 1 HP. By this point the other characters walk in, having cleared the rest of the dock, and sees their friend crippled and mute on the floor in front of this bandit, now called Knuckle Duster. Roll for initiative. Bandit still first. Rolls to attack verbal spells only healer. Nat 20. Cannot heal. Mute. Barbarian tries to cut off Knuckle Duster's hands, preventing him from attacking. Misses. Druid tries to restrain him. Succeeds. Knuckle Duster rolls and breaks the bonds on his turn. Druid pissed off. At this point in the game I've had to show every roll I make to prove that I'm no bullshitting them. Healer tries to drink health potion, but has to roll for it because of throat injury. Fails. Healer pissed off. Paladin has been sitting in the back, trying to come up with plans to kill Knuckle Duster. Barbarian has idea to signal for help from the Kingdom Guard by throwing the druid into the air and the druid spraying fire from his ring. Fails and throws druid into roof. I'm laughing my ass off. The party is losing to this generic bandit. Decide to keep him. He rolls to punch a hole in the wall to escape, as he's realized his bandit buddies haven't shown up yet and if he continues to fight he will die. Healer tries to attack him with a crossbow, hits him for the first time in the entire battle. -2 health. Healer is angry AF. Barbarian tries to grapple Knuckle Duster. Rolls 1. Grapples himself. He gets up to go stand outside for a bit once he saw that roll and told him what happened. Druid unconscious because of roof. Knuckle Duster leaves and vows to come back. Party thoroughly pissed off. But they calm down eventually to continue with the main quest and heal up. Paladin has scoliosis now. Fast forward. Be at a bar for final boss fight of the chapter. Describe how there are 4 men sitting at a table, one of them the boss target, the other 3 are just bandits. Paladin rolls perception check. Recognizes that one of them is Knuckle Duster. Party goes rage mode, instantly attacks him. Not the boss, but him. Knuckle Duster recognizes them. Boss tries to run away. Now, keep in mind the boss was going to run away anyways in the fight. Knuckle Duster was completely unexpected in the campaign. Fight begins and to summarize it, Paladin gets crippled again. Tries to beg for mercy and succeeds. Duster would have stopped attacking if it wasn't for the druid throwing acid onto him, so Knuckle Duster responds by punching him through a wall and into a ship outside, sinking the boat. The healer has been slumped over the bar counter. His jaws broken, the barbarian finally ending the fight by punching the skeleton out of Knuckle Duster's body. At the end of it all, the party celebrated, having killed their worst enemy. But I've grown attached to the character. Decide something. His soul flies out of his body and away out the door. Cheering stops. Druid screams out, "Get that soul!" Frantic picture of a large orc, 2 dwarfs, and an elf try and grab a soul. One manages to grab it, but it slips out into a different direction. Into the boss's, still unharmed, body. Party is silent. I roll to see if the boss's soul can fight the almighty Knuckle Duster. Knuckle Duster succeeds. He is now the new antagonist. Party tries to frantically limp over to the boss to fight. Knuckle Duster simply smiles in his new body and runs away. Joke's on me, have to rewrite the entire fucking campaign. My player defeated the Sark's big bad evil guy with a creative use of the message cantrip. Here is some background information on the world. Thousands of years ago, there were two gods who are siblings. The brother is the god of light and order and the sister is the goddess of darkness and chaos. In the present day, there seems to be some shifts in the dimensional alignment and there are rumors that the gods are going to return. The players are currently in the desert city capital run by a bunch of knights that follow the god of light, with their leader and the city's mayor being a paladin who has sworn devotion to the god and would do anything in his name in order for him to return. One of my players is a wild magic sorcerer who gained his wild magic from being born during an astrological event influenced by the goddess of chaos. As part of this player's backstory, he was running for mayor in the past election competing against the paladin. He was gaining traction and popularity, and when the current mayor discovered his wild magic, he found him not only a threat to the city but a threat to his god and tricked him into going to the elders on another island to cultivate his powers, but ordered his knights to strand him out at sea. Fast forward several months, and when the party ended up in the desert city, the sorcerer realized he could not be seen alive, so he created a disguise and posed as his imaginary twin brother. The mayor was not completely convinced of whether the brother existed and laid out several traps that the party managed to avoid. When the party discovered the mayor was holding a publicized State of the Union to address the current events, the players joined knowing that the mayor could not attack them in front of the crowd without completely dismantling his reputation of being for the people and honest. The sorcerer had some intel in advance that the mayor has been planning to use the spell Locate Creature to determine once and for all if he is actually his alter ego or if he is still alive, so prior to the event he managed to have a wizard cast the spell non-detection on him. When the mayor inspected him with Locate Creature and it failed due to the non-detection, he finally fully bought into the lie. After the State of the Union was over, however, the sorcerer hid behind a corner asked me if he could use the message cantrip to try to pass himself off as somebody else, and I asked him to give me a deception check while casting it. He got a 26, and the mayor got a 4 on his insight. He then, by message, pretended to be the god of light telling him that what he did was wrong and that by murdering the sorcerer, the mayor was going against the god's wishes. Not only was the deception very convincing, the mayor had never heard his god's voice before, so he had no reason to not believe it, and with his low wisdom began mentally breaking down feeling that he had betrayed his god. In a state of shock, the mayor began to reconsider everything he had done and planned in order to please his lord. This completely changed the whole course of the campaign's arc, as the mayor had been planning on feigning an attack and blaming it on the goddess of darkness, but since he had a stern talking to from the god of light, he is going to have to change his order of operations. Of course, this might very well bite the sorcerer in the butt later on if the god does end up returning to the world and finds out somebody was pretending to be him. However, for now, as a DM I need to completely change how the next few sessions will go with this huge change of events as I was not expecting such a clever use of the message spell. Don't underestimate how powerful cantrips can be when used by someone who thinks outside the box. Players watch as their characters of over a year become artifacts. My current group has been playing for about a year. When we started all I had was 3.5 books. The plan was always to move to 5e when I got the books for it. I passed on 5e for too long because the bad taste 4e left in my mouth. I ran a heavily modded Return to the Temple of Elemental Evil placed in 1385, the year of the Spell Plague, with an intent to start the plague as they began crossing the bridge to the Inner Fane, essentially a bridge over an active volcano. One of the players is a wizard and follower of Mystra, decided independently of me. As soon as I ran through the characters I knew the story I'd tell. An old woman appeared to each character individually telling them they were to save the world and to go to the temple to do so. After battling through troglodytes, oozes, albers, manticores and even a red dragon over the course of the last year they finally began to cross the bridge. Now having most of the 5e books I'll need to run a decent campaign I'm ready to transition. They battle and defeat the bridge guardian as his body falls into the lava below. The old woman appears before them again, this time revealing that she is the wizard from the future and was chosen as the new Mystra after Cyric killed her. She couldn't bring them forward in time. All she could was seal their souls into their most prized possessions and make them into holy artifacts for the next generation of adventures. Next week our 5e game begins a story to collect these 4 artifacts and the new Mistress original spell book. TL. Doctor, I spent a year collecting 5e books. In the meantime my party played the characters who their new characters will discover the artifacts containing their souls. I let a player sub in. Now his character is permanently part of the lore. I'm running a homebrew world for some college friends. The party started off locked in a lighthouse by a group of goblins. Go figure. Our first session was short and consisted of only the first room, where they freed themselves. The next session rolls around, and one of my players unexpectedly does not show up. We have another friend who was just spectating for fun, so I asked him to play so I wouldn't have to rebalance the combat. He said that he would if he could play his character that he made as an April Fool's Day joke, a chicken in priest robes. I let him. Was this ever the best decision? While not too daunting in combat, he was humorous. They arrived to the boss room, and after the barbarian one-shot the boss, a half-orc critting with a great axe, he and the chicken ran upstairs to get the archers. The barbarian tried to startle the last one by yelling, which only got its attention. The chicken screamed obscenities at it in Goblin, because the chicken speaks Goblin. As this happened, the drow below put the final shot into the Goblin. When the last enemy in a combat dies, I like to have the player who killed it detail its magnificent death. Normally, the players say something gruesome, but this player described how distraught this Goblin was. Here it was, its life quickly fleeting. He had a newlywed wife and a young child. The chicken saw this in his eyes and felt terrible. The chicken did not want the Goblin's last memory to be of his foul-mouthed behavior. He began to comfort the Goblin in his last moments, assuring him that he would soon be in a better place. As the life left his eyes, the bard lit a candle and began to play solemnly on his bagpipes. The chicken offered his robes to lay over the Goblin. The fighter placed 2 copper over his eyes. The chicken found a locket on the Goblin with a picture of his wife and child with the words, "My dearest, Gretchen." The drow offered some moldy cauliflower as botanicals. The barbarian helped gather rubble to build a monument and a headstone that read "Cairn of the Unknown Goblin." The bard offered half of his silk robe. The chicken read it writes in Goblin. The drow placed the Goblin phallus from his hood, that's another story, onto the grave. The players got so into this ceremony that I was moved to tears. I literally cried over the acts of this ethereal chicken and what it had inspired the other players, who were otherwise condemning of goblins, to do. The ethereal chicken now has a place in the lore as a demigod who arrives to spare the sanctity of those in the most dire of need, even if in a poignant way. TL. Dr. Subin played a chicken, who held a ritualistic ceremony for a slain enemy and inspired others to do the same. I cried.